Welcome, one and all, to another episode of Project Geekology, episode 42. Today we're going to be talking all about Eternals. I don't know what that welcome thing was about in the beginning, but here we are. So today, like I said, we're going to be talking all about Eternals, the latest Marvel film. Not the latest Marvel title, actually, because Hawkeye has already begun airing its first couple episodes.
Right.
But Anthony, you and I haven't been on a podcast together for a couple weeks now, so it's going to be a little bit of a catch-up. We were originally supposed to be doing Dune, the Denis Villeneuve version of Dune, but life got in the way, so we're just shuffling up what we were going to be doing moving forward. So right now, we're doing Eternals. Anthony, how are you?
I'm doing well. The last time we were on podcast together, both you and I were 29.
Oof, that hurts. And you didn't have to bring that up. Like, that's a knife in my back right now, Anthony. How dare you? I gotta get a new podcast host. This isn't working out.
Yeah, man, I feel like ever since I turned 30, I'm starting to feel more pops and feeling more locks and, sore spots.
couple gray hairs here and there.
Long nose hairs and...
Oh, man. Age really is catching up on us. It's the weirdest thing. Honestly, though, it is the weirdest thing because time is moving so fast. At least for me. Because I have fond memories of, literally being in elementary school in, third grade? You were sitting right next to me in third grade. And all of a sudden, we are both in our 30s. Well into our 30s at this point. And, yeah, it's kind of scary.
Yeah, I would say we've almost we lived a good little chunk of life, but we've known each other now longer than than we didn't know each other. We were 7, 8 that we met. So we've known each other longer than the age that we met. Our friendship age is older than the age that we met.
Several times longer at this point.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's c'est la vie. But, all right. So what have you been up to this past, I don't know, it's been 3 or 4 weeks.
Well, I was on vacation for a couple of those weeks.
Yeah. How did that go, by the way?
No, it was really fun. I went to Tennessee for a little over a week of that. That was really nice. It was actually during the time of year where the fall really hits. So all the colors were really starting to show. I spent a couple of days in Asheville, and we drove through the mountains to get there. And
oh man, that's
not
such
only
a
is that
beautiful drive.
It is such a beautiful drive, and also kind of scary.
Right, all the twisting turns.
You're right.
Did you have to go onto the Blue Ridge Parkway at all, or no? I'm assuming you did because you were in Asheville.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
Yeah. That's known as one of the most scenic views in America, by the way. If you guys ever get the opportunity, Jen and I did it a couple years ago when we went down to see the eclipse, but we went down the Blue Ridge Parkway and we ended up in Asheville, actually, which is such a cool little town. But that drive is such every 10 minutes you want to stop the car just to look out and just take pictures of the valleys.
Yeah, it was
so cool.
Really nice. It was super pretty, especially driving through it during the fall, seeing those vibrant colors, the reds, the oranges, the yellows. Yeah, it was really nice.
That sounds peaceful. That's awesome, man.
Yeah, it was great. Asheville was really cool. That was my first time going there. I got to check out a couple of breweries, and I went to this really cool place. It was called the Retrocade. And it's an arcade where you spend only $10, and all the games are set to free to play, so you don't have to buy tokens.
That's awesome.
So
That's really
it was
cool,
really cool. They have a bar there also where they serve local beer. They also have game consoles there, so if you want to play, PlayStation, Xbox, Switch, they had those there also. It was really cool. It was a cool little place. It was 2 stories, so the basement area, they had more games and stuff.
Sick. That's awesome. Yeah, what have you been up to, in terms of just enjoying entertainment wise?
So definitely.
I know that's kind of a loaded question because it's been so long, but
seen Dune, which we're definitely going to cover. The Eternals, of course.
Right.
I watched all of the Cowboy Bebop anime, or like rewatched it, which it was really nice revisiting that anime. It's been a long time, and just going through it reminded me why it's one of my favorites. And I was like in a weird mood to like start rewatching Naruto, so that's what I'm doing now.
That is a weird mood. Like, what kind of mood do you have to be in to be like, I'm gonna rewatch Naruto?
The mood where your brain says, "Hey, why don't you rewatch this?"
Yeah, no, I've been there. Maybe not with Naruto, but I've been there. That's cool, man. That's awesome.
Yeah, I have definitely been. Also, I've been playing Halo Infinite. They dropped the multiplayer for that. So the multiplayer is free. It's free to play. They have like a battle pass and stuff. So really, when you go to buy the game, you're only spending money on the campaign. So
okay, I understand. Yeah.
So yeah, that's been pretty fun. I also got, just so many games. Shining Pearl, Pokemon.
The new Pokemon? Okay,
yeah. I remember playing that like back in high school, Pearl.
Took me a minute to figure out what you were saying.
Yeah.
Like, what is Shining Pearl? Oh, the new Pokemon, yeah.
I see your brother got that too. I have him on Switch, and I saw him playing it. I also got Shin Megami Tensei 5, which it's one of those games where there's like a bunch of different monsters, and you befriend them and fight against other monsters with them. It's set in the same universe as Persona, actually.
What's weird is that the majority of the games that we play are mostly out of America or Japan, sometimes out of Canada. But literally, it's like those three places are like the powerhouse of the pop culture in terms of gaming that we experience.
I know, like Atlas, Sega, and then there's Microsoft. Riot also. Something I really, really want to check out. I dabbled here and there playing League of Legends, and they released that show, Arcane, and it's gotten amazing reviews. Like, I heard it's amazing.
My only issue is I've never played League of Legends, so I'm wondering if I can go in cold, because I mean, even IGN, they gave it a perfect 10 out of 10. Like, what are the chances that a show just is a perfect show? So I want to check it out.
And I think that on Rotten Tomatoes, it's pretty high also. Let's see. Dude, 100%.
Does it say how many reviews?
98% audience. Let's see.
That's nuts.
That is nuts. No, it doesn't say how many. They announced a season 2 for it. Oh, and our girl Kate Bishop from Hawkeye, she's actually a voice in that show too. Yeah,
I heard. Haley Steinfeld, she's blowing up right now.
Yeah, she's been doing a lot lately. But that's cool. That's a show that I have sitting in my list that I want to check out. I would say what I would tell you is to go and check it out. I know a couple people who've watched it and they're like, wow, this is amazing, and they never played the video game either. You might have more of an appreciation for it if you knew who the characters were.
Right.
I know I don't know all the characters, but I know like a good handful of them. I know I can name some of at least like a good handful of the ones that are in the actual show, but I don't know too much of the lore. Like, I know more about the lore in Overwatch than I do about that. video game.
Right, and I think with Overwatch, it's an interesting thing because I don't think you need to have played the game to understand the morals and the character types that are presented in the Overwatch animated shorts. So I feel like if that carries over with this show Arcane, I can watch Arcane without having to know much about the League of Legends. Obviously, I've played Overwatch plenty, and I know a lot of the characters, obviously. So I get a little bit of extra enjoyment out of that, obviously. Right. But I know other people who haven't played Overwatch have enjoyed watching those Overwatch shorts as well. So I kind of feel like maybe that's where this show lands, but I guess we'll have to see.
Yeah, I'm interested in watching it, and I plan to watch it sometime soon. I do want to watch through the live action Cowboy Bebop, which kind of like hurts. Like it hurts that it didn't do so well, like it didn't translate so well. It's not getting like great reviews at all.
See, I haven't heard anything about the new Cowboy Bebop. I've seen like memes and like people making fun of it, but I haven't actually I haven't seen any reviews on it.
Yeah, I didn't dig too deep into it, but I'm gonna watch it, and I'm usually somebody that I will like something, even if like a lot of people don't like it. I mean, that's why there's certain things out there that gain that cult status because a good majority won't like it, but there's that like small like group of people that love something.
To jump off of that point, we have the 1980s Dune by David Lynch that clearly didn't do very well critically or commercially, but is kind of beloved by people who revisit it.
Yeah.
So I can totally see that being the case for something like a Cowboy Bebop animated or like a live action series and so on. So yeah, that's a good point. And I think maybe Eternals might be one of those films that becomes a cult classic. That only time will tell. Hopefully it becomes more of a Guardians of the Galaxy type cult classic than a Iron Man 2 or Thor the Dark World type film where nobody really likes it in the future, I guess.
Yeah, Iron Man 2, that one was a little weird. I will say that like the Thor movies didn't catch me till Ragnarok. That was like literally the best out of all of them. The first one was okay, the second one was forgettable, but that third one, Taika Waititi did like a really good job.
Yeah, I totally agree with that, and I totally understand like the criticisms laid at Thor: The Dark World. It is very forgettable. It's one of those movies that you can go back and be like, I totally forgot about watching this movie. I've revisited it. I've revisited it several times, and actually every time I watch it, I'm like, this is actually really funny and really enjoyable. But the villain and the premise and like the actual like thread of it all doesn't gel. So like the actual memorability of like what the stakes are isn't there. So I think that's where most people lose their ability to enjoy Thor: The Dark World. But I actually think it's a better movie than most people give it credit for.
Man, it's funny that it kind of like makes me think of Man of Steel. It's like when you go to watch it, like that first like part, you're like, man, this is really good. Like, why did I not like this? And then you get to that last half of the film, and you're like, okay, now I remember. So kind of related to what we're talking about, I think that this is like a good time to get in our like last thoughts of. So we got that Spider-Man trailer. We've also gotten like a couple teasers. Is this the last trailer, or do they have one more?
Nobody really knows. Some people think that we're getting another trailer on Monday, but I have no idea. Okay,
so let's assume that this is the last trailer. The reason why I ask is because it's like super close to the release of the film. So yeah. I wouldn't see why they would need to. I hope that I'm wrong, but I'm going to be honest with you. I'm not feeling any Toby or Andrew Garfield vibes. I don't think that they're going to be in this film.
Okay. I'm not going to... I've seen things, okay? I being an internet personality, I've seen things.
Dakota, you sound like you just came out of the Vietnam War.
I'm not gonna say.
Yeah, like the 1,000-yard stare. What was it like? I mean, dude. So, I mean, I've like looked around online. I've seen that video with the CG people like breaking it down, saying like, "Oh, this is this would be hard to fake," and like a lot of reasons, a lot of the cases that they are going to be in it, and like a lot of people are like really scrutinizing this film, and there are reasons to believe that they could be in it, but like, dude, like, I don't know if it's just like me like just being skeptical, but I'm just not like, I don't know, like I just they're playing with my hearts, especially, bro. They have Green Goblin, they have Sandman in there. They've really like set it up for those two to be in it. It would, like, for me, it would make no sense for them to not be in this film. But like, I'm there's like no, I don't know, like I'm
no hard evidence for you,
huh?
There's no hard evidence for you.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Well, I'm not gonna. I think skepticism is healthy, and you know what? If Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield aren't in this movie, a lot of people are going to be super disappointed.
Oh, heck yeah, dude! Heck
but
yeah!
Here's the thing: would they go ahead and rehire all of these individuals to come back to franchises that they haven't visited in 15 to 20 years, just to not also rehire the faces of those franchises?
Right. Yeah, so that's exactly what I'm saying. Like, you've got Green Goblin, Doc Ock, Sandman from OG Spider-Man, and then like you've got the Lizard and Electro from Garfield. Like like I was saying, like you have all these characters. It would be so hard. Like, it wouldn't make sense if they weren't in it. But like they're like, I don't know. It's just like a lot now. Like, everybody's like really torn because after this last trailer, it's like, bro, it does not make sense for y'all to be hiding this to this late. You don't have to show that much, but dang, bro.
All right. So an interesting thing that they didn't show, if you look up the Brazilian trailer for this recent trailer.
Oh, you're talking about the punching thing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's clearly something that's been digitally removed from the footage, but why the heck would Lizard be punched in midair?
Yeah,
like,
I saw that too.
It has to be one of the Spider-Man. I don't know. They're in it. Trust me. If I'm wrong, then
I hope I'm wrong, dude. I hope I'm wrong. Let me tell you, like, I mean, how many people out there like want to be wrong about something? I want to be wrong about this. I want to come into this film, just like not expecting them to be in it, and then them being in it, I'm like, bro, yes, I'm glad that I was wrong.
Yeah, no, your skepticism will pay off, I assure you.
Okay, I really do hope so. I really do hope so. I mean, but yeah, I saw that video, the Brazilian one. So I'm like, okay, that shows a little bit something. Like, I mean, the scrutiny is crazy, because, we all really wanted to see. I mean, some people, I'm seeing all three of them would be cool, but for me, I mean, seeing Toby, bro, I mean, that's a Spider-Man that captured all our hearts.
That's the superhero that's the superhero that you and I grew up with. So
yeah, those first two movies were like just fantastic.
I remember going like to school the weekend after that first Spider-Man movie, and like everybody was talking about it. You have like kids everywhere doing like the web slinging finger thing. Like, can you do it? I can't do it. Yeah, but yeah.
Oh man. Yeah, I wanted to get that discussion in since we're talking about Marvel.
Yeah, no, it's good. We'll definitely be talking about this No Way Home later this year or early next year. So
yeah, definitely, and we'll be talking about whether I was like right or wrong. But like I said, I really hope I'm wrong.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, enough about me and that little discussion about Spider-Man. What have you been up to, Dakota? I know, like, I told you a little bit about what I did. One thing I did, the second week that I was on vacation, I went up to Orlando and I went to the different parks. I went to Universal and Disney. I did Food and Wine.
Nice, dude. I love Food and Wine Festival.
And, dude, I got a wand. I got Sirius Black's wand.
Sick.
I also got a Ravenclaw shirt because I'm a Raven.
Are you Ravenclaw?
I am.
Yeah?
Yep.
Sure you're not a Slytherin? You slimy bastard.
I might be a little bit.
I'm just playing. Yeah, anyway, so what have I been up to? I don't even remember. Looking around my room.
Gotta look around my room. Clues to what I've been up to.
Okay, so I started watching Future Boy Conan. It's a anime from the 70s by Hayao Miyazaki. It was his first directorial work. And it was like I think it's like a 24 to 26 episode show. It's amazing. The animation on that show back in the 70s, it's awesome. It's basically like post nuclear war, like what the world would look like and like how life thrives again after the fact. But it's a really, really awesome show. I've only watched like 3 or 4 episodes now, but I'm really enjoying that.
I saw, Jin was posting something on Instagram about that, and something about the inspiration for something in Wind Waker coming from that.
The entire story, really, of Wind Waker, the entire like feel of it is very much Future Boy Conan.
Nice.
So, yeah, I think that's pretty dope. I read a book by author Douglas Wolk, W-O-L-K. And it's one of the most interesting books I've read in a long time. Basically, what he did was he read every single Marvel comic book ever.
Wait, what?
Yeah, he read every single Marvel comic book ever. And that was over 27,000 comic books, almost, or a little over 500,000 pages worth of comic books. And what's amazing is that Marvel Comics, unlike DC Comics, has never truly rebooted. There have been slight reboots, but the story remains the same. It's the same characters that existed in the 60s are the same characters that are in the comics now. Like, they still have all that shared history. And he kind of explained something known as the sliding timeline, where basically the gravity of these events, for whatever reason, in this universe holds so much weight that the timeline slides forward as the story goes on. So if you're reading a comic book of Spider-Man, and he references something 30 years ago or 40 years ago, whenever the event happened in the comic books, it's really only 6 or 7 years ago, according to those comics. And in total, the 616 Marvel Universe has only elapsed roughly 14 years, which is bizarre to me. So like the first Fantastic Four comic in like the early 60s, to like stuff that's coming out in 2021, only 14 years worth of stuff existed in that time. And obviously there's going to be like anachronisms and timeline errors that you can find, obviously, because it's a comic book. You're never going to have true consistency, but it's the same basic story through all of that. And what he did was he read every single Marvel comic book since Fantastic Four onward, because that's when the story really begins, and experience this whole shared universe. And
that's crazy.
Basically,
when was this released?
Recently, within the past couple of weeks. It's called All of the Marvels. Sorry, I didn't say the name. It's called All of the Marvels.
Oh my gosh, dude! Like I thought. So like when you're saying, "Oh, I read this book," I'm thinking that this probably came out like in the 90s or the 2000s, maybe like 2010s or something. But like, dude, that's a lot of comics, man. That's a lot. Like, how do you
27,000? Yeah,
bro. Like, how do you where do you? Oh my gosh! Like that would take forever.
It took him years of like multiple hours every single day to accomplish that. So it's a massive feat. It's a massive undertaking. But he kind of breaks down the Marvel Universe character by character, and like how the different threads of different writers change the way that the overall story of Marvel Universe is told.
Yeah, I'm gonna look this up.
It's called All of the Marvels, and there were parts of it that gave me chills, that like little details from like the 60s that were picked up on much later, and different plot threads that I would have never ever known are just, it blew me away. And the fact, yeah, that's the book, All of the Marvels.
Nice.
And it's a fascinating thing. And he starts with he doesn't go into every single comic book ever, obviously, but he highlights certain things that he feels are pivotal like moments in Marvel Comics and the ultimate theme that runs all the way through it.
Dude, that's a lot of reading. That's a lot. Dude,
technically the Marvel Comics story is the longest continuous human narrative ever written, because it's continuous, it's ongoing, and it's one story if you really break it down, and in all its component parts. So it's the biggest story ever told by humans. Yeah, no, it's nuts. It's a crazy thing.
Wow, dude.
The end really touched me because it kind of like boiled down what it means to be a collector, what it means to be a comic book reader, what it means to pass this knowledge on to the next generation and stuff, and like what that meant for him as a father. It really touched me in certain ways, and I liked the emotional resonance of all this information that you're being fed from characters like Fantastic Four all the way to Shang-Chi, and it's really cool.
So when did he start this? Like, I'm pretty sure he probably like read stuff when he was younger, but probably not with the thought in mind like, oh, I'm gonna make a book or I'm gonna write a novel on this.
We'll be back after a quick break.
I hate talking.
Do you love talking about any topic and are never frustrated during conversations? Then I Hate Talking is not a podcast for you.
But if there are topics that you avoid, then listen to I Hate Talking.
Do you know the definition of every word others use? I Hate Talking is not a podcast for you.
But if you are curious about the definition and historical usage of words, then listen to I Hate Talking.
Do you know about current events and other random topics? Then I Hate Talking is not a podcast for you.
But if you enjoy conversations on a variety of topics, then listen to I Hate Talking.
Listen to I Hate Talking wherever you get your podcasts.
Episodes drop every Thursday. Listen, like, and follow I Hate Talking today.
So what I've gathered is, well, he used to work in a comic book store back in the 80s, so he was always around it growing up. But it wasn't until he became a father around the age of like his son being like 7 to 10-ish that the son wanted to start reading comic books in chronological order, and they read from like 61 all the way to 1968 like chronologically, and then they jumped forward to the event comics of the 2000s, and that's when he realized, wait, what if I actually just read all of the comic books? And that's when he started his like project. So I think he went from there and like jumped off of like what happened in the 60s, and then he said in the beginning that he jumped around from interest to interest, but overall he read everything that connected even tangentially to the Marvel Comics, even like some of the romance novels or romance books from the 60s and 70s that like sort of revolved around like superhero characters.
Dang, dude, that's a big feat right there, man. And there's still, is he like continuing to read them because their comics still come out? So
yeah, I think there's something like 80 comics come out a month from Marvel.
This man,
I think that he does. Yeah, I'm assuming that he does. Like at that point, why would you stop? Yeah, but I don't know. Maybe it is expensive. It's a very expensive hobby unless you're reading digitally. But yeah, so that's one of the coolest things I've read in a long time. It didn't always capture me. It wasn't the most interesting thing ever, but there were moments that really blew my mind. And I think that as a comic book fan, it was super awesome learning about not only like what the ultimate themes are in the entirety of the Marvel story, but also the background information of like these different writers and like what they were trying to say throughout their runs. I think that was probably part of the cool aspect of it as well.
Nice.
Yeah, So, writers and artists and pencilers and, inkers and all of that stuff is also talked about quite heavily. So it's not just about writers with comic books. That's something I have to mentally check myself on, because that's something that I've always really considered as being if it was a Stan Lee comic, I would call it a Stan Lee written comic. But a lot of times it was Stan Lee and Jack Kirby, and sometimes it was more Jack Kirby that was writing the story, and Stan Lee would just write down what the characters would actually say or whatever. So stuff like that, I gotta kind of check myself on, because it's not just the writer when it's comic books, it's also the writer and the artist and everyone else involved.
Yeah, man. I mean, you have some amazing artists out there, like Jim Lee. Jim
Lee is awesome.
Yeah.
I want to highlight one artist really quick. The new Hawkeye series, the whole series is actually very reminiscent of, and it's heavily influenced by the comic book by Matt Fraction, the writer, and David Aja, the illustrator on that. And it's really interesting because the opening credits are nearly identical style-wise to David Aja's work in that 2011 series.
Oh, nice.
But he's not credited in the show at all, which is kind of weird, but Matt Fraction is. So I just want to
give credit where credit's due.
Give credit where it's due, even though it's not actually credited in the actual thing. But anyway, so that's what I've been up to. A little bit of Hawkeye here, a little bit of all of the Marvels there, Future Boy Conan. And I've been working on a video, actually. So I've been working on a video about 10 times that Marvel broke its own timeline, specifically the Marvel movies. When different times that they broke the timeline in certain things, and I'll probably talk about one of those things in today's episode.
Nice. Yeah, definitely. But yeah, no, I think we've gotten a nice little Marvel discussion. We've done a little catch up. We're a little bit further into the podcast than we normally are when we start the main discussion, mostly because we're doing a lot of catch up. But we're 35 minutes, almost 36 minutes as of recording. Unless you have anything else you want to talk about, I think let's talk about the movie A Topic, Eternals.
Let's hit it. Yeah. So, 7,000 years ago, 10 Eternals were sent to Earth. Why? To protect the planet from the Deviants. The Deviants were created to proliferate sentient life on Earth and other planets like Earth. But for whatever reason, the Deviants have decided to rebel and are now attacking sentient life. So now the Eternals are here to attack the Deviants. So it's almost like a virus was created with the initial program, and the Eternals are basically the vaccine or the antivirus to the virus. And yeah, so we see Eternals 7,000 years ago, 5,000 BC, enter Mesopotamia, protect the people there from the Deviants. And we see a couple, we jump forward to Babylon in 575 BC. We see other stuff like the city of Tenochtitlan destroyed by Cortez and his army. And all the while, we just see Eternals there kind of minding their own business. They're not interfering for whatever reason.
Right. They're essentially they're given the task to take out or to intervene when a deviant is involved. So if there's something going on, a deviant's attacking, then the Eternals, they come in and they take out the deviants. But all these wars or genocides that are being committed, the Eternals, they have to essentially just be on standby.
Right. So it becomes a story of watching these individual characters who have very different emotional connections to the people around them, and very different emotional connections to people in general and humanity. And I would say maybe Cersei would be the one closest or most closely linked to humankind, She's a teacher of students and stuff at a museum. It's interesting seeing how these individuals react to certain choices throughout the film, and eventually how they all react by the end of the film in terms of who the real threats are.
Right. Yeah, they all have these like really interesting powers. It's obvious that what's Rob Stark's name in this? Icarus. That's right. Yeah, that Buddy made a joke about Icarus, the boy who flew too close to the sun. But yeah, like he's probably the one that I would say that's like the most powerful. Like that's what Superman like.
He definitely has the most Superman-like powers. He has, heat vision, and he can fly, and he's super strong, and I'm assuming he's pretty fast as well. Yeah, I think he is the strongest, because even other characters like Gilgamesh, while they are more powerful in terms of, brute strength, they don't have the heat vision that he can project at a distance,
I mean, he can also fly, and he also has like his own like superhuman strength also.
Right, he's actually even compared to Superman in the film by Phastos' son. So we have a weird precedent where it's never actually been like spoken aloud in an MCU movie before, but we have two DC characters that are referenced in this movie. We have Phastos' son, I forget his name, claimed that Icarus was Superman. He even like claims that he was wearing a cape even though he wasn't. And then we have Batman referenced by Gilgamesh when we first meet up with Gilgamesh in Australia.
Oh yeah, you're right. Yeah, no, I was actually surprised that they were both allowed to say that in those films.
Yeah, I mean, technically it's just a pop culture thing. I don't think there's any real like reason behind it. I don't think there's any like deeper reasoning or anything like that. But you can't have Marvel without DC, so I respect it.
Well, at least that DC Comics do exist in the Marvel universe.
At the very least, it's DC Comics. Yeah, we don't know about all the movies or whatever, but considering we're getting something like No Way Home and Multiverse of Madness, I wouldn't even be surprised if 2 to 5 years down the line something's announced where it's like a DC versus Marvel sort of thing.
Bro, but if DC gets their act together, I would love to see that.
Yeah, well, we'll see about that. And you know what? I feel like that might be the ultimate thing for like Kevin Feige and company. Is it needs to be a two-way street in that respect. Like Marvel clearly has most of their game together. They have a well-oiled machine, whereas DC is kind of all over the place. And I say mostly put together because it's no secret anymore. But Eternals did not get a positive review on Rotten Tomatoes. Yeah, it's actually the first rotten MCU film ever, and this is the 26th film, so that's quite a record. 25 films straight were of positive, mostly certified fresh films, and this is the first dud of the bunch. How do you feel about that?
I'm gonna be honest, like I don't think that the critics know at all what they're talking about. I mean, if you're gonna give The Dark World a decent score and not this one, come on now. Can I say quota? Like I'm pretty like I'm, I know I'm not the only one. I'm pretty sure that there's a quota that they have to like at least write some bad reviews.
Maybe I don't know how any of that works. I don't want to put any words in any critics' mouths, but I do think a lot of people didn't get it. Or get what they were trying to do. And maybe that's a fault of the film. I don't know. I feel like I totally understood what they were trying to get at. It was like a love for humanity. And that's ultimately what the film was trying to represent. Whether that came across well enough or was hammered home enough for critics, I don't know. And I think every critic is going to be a little bit different in that respect. But I personally really enjoyed this movie. And I can understand some of the criticisms. I can understand some of them. But most of the criticisms that I have heard can be explained away or ironed out with a second viewing.
Yeah, I want to give, the thing is that, like, I want to give it a second viewing also, but like, even on my first viewing, I didn't hate the film. I thought it was a very, like, enjoyable film. I thought it was cool. It was also like a different Marvel film. It had like all the action and stuff, but it was something different. These are characters. It's a team of characters that we haven't been introduced to in the MCU. And really that's what this period of time is. They did their overarching story, with the Infinity Gauntlet series. And so now they're they're doing this like whole multiverse stuff. This is just, a small rung in that ladder that they're climbing up to, another crazy event. And I'm excited to see how that pans out. I'm excited to see how these characters cross over in the future. I think that Eternals, is it the best Marvel film that I've seen? No. But do I think that it deserves to be rated rotten? No, not at all. I don't think so at all.
Yeah. So if you could name one thing that you felt was weak about the movie, where would you start?
Maybe the characters themselves, like the development was maybe a little like shallow. Like they kind of gave you enough to like understand what the character was, but it wasn't really all too deep.
I feel like, there were certain characters that they definitely didn't nail down any like emotional resonance, for me at least.
Right, yeah.
Like I didn't, most particularly like with Sprite, I feel like
yeah,
her ultimate motivations didn't feel warranted based on her relationships with Cersei and Icarus and everyone in the film.
Yeah.
By the way, we're keeping this spoiler free, at least for the first half, and then we can get more into spoilers later on. But so I don't think we've spoiled anything particularly.
No, like we've kind of like touched upon a little bit like of like who they are and where they, like why they were kind of created and like what they're like here to do. But I mean, for the most part, I mean, yeah, that's really, like, we're really like what they were, what the Eternals are. Like, it's really like the Avengers, but hands off unless it's deviants.
One thing that I feel was possibly an issue for me, at least, was the chemistry between certain characters. I don't think that everyone gelled together, because there were clearly the characters that were more serious. There were clearly characters that had a lot more going on behind, like within themselves and on the screen and stuff. And there were characters that were clearly comic relief. Very few characters for me actually gelled together. And I think the biggest issue that I had was that even though I liked all the individual characters, the actors themselves didn't seem to work well together. Like, I didn't really feel anything between Cersei and Icarus. I felt more for Dane Whitman, played by Kit Harington, and Cersei.
Yeah, I know. I thought it was interesting that they were
two Stark boys.
Yeah, that they're both in this film, and even he has like his own like secret past, like his like family line. Yeah,
which I actually was surprised about. Not that he has a secret past, but that they didn't really touch on it until the very, they barely touched on it. Really,
they really didn't even touch upon it at all. They like teased it.
Yes, it was a tease. But the character is not a huge character in Marvel Comics, but a big enough character to have its own like name and background and history. So it was surprising that they barely touched on any of the actual character's depth at this point in the story. But I did like the character himself alongside Cersei. So that was awesome. I think the best chemistry by far There were other like little relationships that I liked, like Druig and Makari. I thought that they gelled really well together.
Oh yeah.
But I think for me the biggest relational chemistry was by far Gilgamesh and Athena.
Oh yeah, I liked Gilgamesh a lot.
Yeah, Gilgamesh was really cool. I think Don Lee. He's a Chinese actor who's been in maybe not hundreds, but at least over 100 movies. And this is his first real Hollywood movie. And I think he did a great job. I think he played off of everyone's strengths really well in pretty much any scene.
Yeah, he did.
He was in.
And he was one of those characters that helped provide comedic relief.
Comedic relief, but he was also like a super heartwarming character at the same time.
Yes.
Like, his character was written so well. Like, there were times where I just was kind of amazed at like the heart that this character had, or the kindness in this. He's literally a gentle giant because he's one of the most physically powerful of all the Eternals, but yet he has the biggest heart because he will sacrifice his own self for someone else within the circle.
Right, and you get that. You get that with him taking up the responsibility, taking care of Athena. Yeah,
absolutely. I think, and together he and Don Lee and Angelina Jolie's Athena were stunning on screen. Like, they just, every time they were on screen, I was just like, wow, this is amazing. This is cinema. But then, like, other characters didn't seem to fit all that well. I don't think Fastos really, not that he didn't gel well with other characters, but there were a lot of scenes where it didn't feel like he was the right person for it, I guess. It's kind of hard to explain. I felt his humor was out of place a lot of times. Whose humor I did like was Kumail Nanjiani's, what's his character's name? I forget.
Yeah, he had those like finger pistols.
Yeah, hold on. What's Kumail's name? Oh, Kingo. Yeah, I think Kumail Nanjiani's Kingo. Sometimes, you know what? I don't think there's any scene that I actively disliked of Kingo, but there were definitely scenes that like his humor wasn't as strong as it was elsewhere in the movie. Or I think that he was used as exposition for Sprite a lot, but I don't think it really gelled all that well.
Right. What did you think about Salma Hayek, Ajak, her character?
Salma Hayek's Ajak. She was in the film probably the least of all of the Eternals. And from what we saw of her, I liked it. I bought the performance. I liked the heart of the character. You could tell that she had a deep affection for the other Eternals and was a strong leader type figure. So I liked that about her a lot. But yeah, she wasn't in the movie enough for me, in my opinion. But that was partly necessitated by what happens in the plot and everything. So yeah, I appreciate what Salma Hayek brought to the role, for sure.
Is there any like last thoughts before we move into like actually talking about the film or going to spoiler territory?
Yeah, because I think we're like dancing on spoilers now.
Yeah, we are. Definitely.
So let me just say that I really liked Druig and Makari. Makari is our first deaf superhero in the MCU, and she's actually a deaf actress too. So I bought the performance obviously very, very well because it's realistic. But I think the idea of their relationship, Druig and Makari, I just liked it. It just felt right to me, even though it wasn't hinted at before they started pursuing each other. It just kind of fell into place, and I liked that. But and I thought Druig was really cool. Like, his powers, the way that they were realized, were probably my favorite in terms of just, whoa, that's OP.
Yeah,
like what he's able to do is pretty
OP.
Yeah, no, he was able to take over the minds of pretty much entire battlefields worth of individuals, and that was insane, actually.
Yeah, when they went to that one like genocide, essentially, he was trying to stop it.
Yeah, so let's jump into spoilers now, because that's I think this starts touching upon active spoilers. But
yeah, definitely. I thought we moved into non-spoilers. I mean, into spoilers.
That's okay. Yeah, so that scene I particularly loved. It's the Eternals destroying the last of the deviants in, I think, like the 1500s in the city of Tenochtitlan. Tenochtitlan is one of the Aztec cities that Cortez brutally destroyed back in the day. And it's known as like one of the biggest massacres in like Central America ever. And I can totally understand why these characters who clearly love humanity would want to stop it, even though they're told by the Celestials not to do so. And I think that drive for them to want to help when they're told not to makes them better characters, or at least more interesting, because you feel for them. You feel what they're feeling when they see these individuals, these like people getting destroyed.
Right. And Druig was like, I can stop this. They really were like, battling amongst each other, because they're like, why does it have to be just that? Why can't we intervene? We can intervene. This is, it's senseless. Yeah, it's like senseless. Enough is enough. And it's crazy because they come from a place, that's like really like high tech. So they come to Earth where, like, when they first come in, there's like no technology really. And they're like, oh my gosh, this is moving so slow. They're like trying to help speed them along.
Yeah, Fastos is the one in charge of technological development for the species. So he, like, every now and then will, drop a couple tools here and there to help speed along human growth. In terms of Fastos, I really liked where he was in terms of his relationship with humanity, because he was the guy who was creating all of these tools for individuals, and I'm assuming that he created the rifle, which is why all this bloodshed was being spilt that night in that Aztec city. And Druid calls him out on that, like maybe it wasn't such a good idea to introduce guns and stuff. And I can only imagine that, as someone who has created a tool, seeing it used for such a destructive purpose in terms of like human life, I feel like that would kill me inside. So seeing this over and over again throughout the centuries, and then flash forwarding to Hiroshima. Right.
Yeah. I was about to say that. Like that. I think that was like the straw that kind of broke the camel's back for him, and like he kind of like really backed off after that moment, because he's like that destruction like really broke him.
Yeah, because I mean, I don't want to say that he's not the answer, or he's not the reason that humans decided to nuke other humans, obviously, but he is the catalyst to them getting that knowledge based on what we know from the film.
Right. So, like, yeah, he had a hand in the creation of the nuclear bombs.
Yeah, if not, like, he may not have like actually showed them how to make something like that, but the individual tools that he gave them eventually led to them learning how to make such a destructive bomb. And yeah, so that was a tough scene. I actually really liked that scene with him and Salma Hayek's Ajak, just kind of like he's just in tears. He's weeping for the loss of life. And I got choked up several times throughout the movie at like just trying to empathize with these individuals. And I think that's actually the ultimate point of the movie, is that you need to empathize with these individuals if you're going to understand the movie. And I think that if you didn't get it, you likely didn't feel anything for the characters to begin with.
Yeah, no, there were definitely points in the film where, you know, and it was interesting to see these characters interact, you know, like different parts of human history, like Babylon, you know, Hiroshima. It was really crazy, like, you know, seeing them in these. It was like a different sort of film. Like we've had, you know, kind of like period films within the MCU, but like this one was like way different. Like it actually, like a lot of it took place in the past, you know, and it would kind of
in ancient times,
right?
Yeah, there was quite a bit of the film's runtime dedicated to the past. Not as much as I would have liked, actually, because I was kind of hoping we would get a lot more of like the ancient history that we didn't necessarily see in the trailers. But we did get quite a bit of it, and I liked that. There was one plot hole, like timeline-related plot hole, that is pretty substantial in my opinion. So both Cersei and Phastos claim that Cersei and Icarus's relationship lasted 5,000 years. But that's not true, because we know that their relationship started after 575 BC in Babylon, because that's when Ajax gave Icarus permission to tell Cersei how he felt about her, which means that between 575 BC and 2024, which is present day MCU, that's only about 2,500 years, you know, considering that they broke up a century earlier. So it's actually 2,600 years, but subtract a century, they were only a couple for 2,500 years when the movie said that they were a couple for 5,000 years. So clearly they just counted wrong. But it's a pretty big mishap, considering we're talking about a plot hole that spans millennia.
No, then they could be like, oh, you know, there were a couple in the multiverse.
Right, yeah, actually, they probably would say something.
No, that is a weird time plot hole right there. So a good portion of this film is present day, and they start seeing these deviants again. They're getting attacked, but these deviants are different. They're deviants that have been attacking Eternals rather than, you know, the humans. And so, you know, they're kind of trying to like fend them off there. And then, you know, it's Cersei and Sprite, you know, they realize that and then they end up getting help with by Icarus. And they all come to the realization, like, hey, we need to get back together because the deviants are back and we need to take them out. And so, like, a good majority of the film is them getting the group back together. You know, there's a lot that happens along the way.
I kind of like that whole dynamic of, like, these are characters who haven't seen each other. Some of them haven't seen each other for centuries.
Yeah, that's a lot of time, man.
Yeah, especially for us humans, but for them, it's almost as if like they're picking up from some like discussion that, you know, it's almost like seeing like a high school reunion sort of thing.
Yeah,
but
it's like, oh wow,
you know,
it's
a little bit
for
different.
like 10 years.
Yeah, for them. But I felt that was a natural progression of the film. Obviously, they aren't going to all be in like one place living with each other forever. So to see them in certain groups like go on and pick each other up to meet this new threat head on, I thought that was a fun just way of handling reintroducing those characters into the plot.
Right. The character that I liked the most, like what he's been doing in the meantime, is Kingo, where he essentially becomes this like Bollywood star. And it's funny because like he doesn't age, so like he's been in films for like so many years, and they're like, oh, he's like, yeah, that's my grandfather, my father, you know, than me, but it's really been him the whole time.
Right.
I love his assistant. His assistant was hilarious, dude.
Oh yes.
You know,
yes.
like with all the cameras that he had. he's like he's like he's like making a Kingo's making a documentary, and his assistant's been like helping him out like the whole time. It's so funny, especially like when they get into like that battle in the village where Druig is.
Yes.
And Kingo's like, oh, did you get that on camera? He's like, of course I did. And then like they're like Sprite like smashes like one of his cameras, and then he like appears with another one.
Right. Yeah, the two cameras get smashed actually.
And then and then he has a third.
They're like, how many cameras do you have? Yeah. No, Karun, that character was one of my favorites, especially near the end when he and Kingo leave their ship, the Domo. And he's just, he's very polite. He's just like, thank you so much for this opportunity. Like, he bless you all. Dude, that was like the most heartfelt moment of the entire thing for me, because I believed it.
Yeah.
Like, this is a character who believes the world is ending. And he believes that these characters have, are the only hope left for the world. And there's nothing left to do for them. So, yeah, I loved that little speech of his, but in general, I loved his character a lot.
Yeah, no, I really enjoyed his character. The dynamic between him and Kingo was really awesome, because like I think the thing that I really liked about Kingo was like he didn't treat that character like some servant, Right.
Yeah, no, he didn't. It was a friend, even though, like you said, it was a valet.
Yeah,
you can tell that they were best friends.
Right, but he didn't really like treat him like that. Like he was almost like a buddy, really. Like he was like his buddy. But it's there's a lot of enjoyable characters in this film, like Kit Harington's character. He was really, really like I really enjoyed his character. He was like a very like understanding, like when he like finds out that Cersei is an Eternal, like he wasn't like really afraid. It's like, oh, okay, well, he just went with it,
Yeah, I liked his character as well. I thought that the subtle nods to the character from the comics, Black Knight, who Dane Whitman is the alter ego of, were really cool, especially the end credits scene where you could see him reaching out for his family sword, and you hear the voice of Blade in the background. You sure you're ready to take that step, Mr. Whitman, or something like that?
Oh, dude, I only got one.
What? You didn't see that?
The like when was that one? Because I got
it was at the very end of the movie.
Because I got
you got the Harry Styles one.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's two. There's a second one.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I got the Star Fox one.
Dude, sorry, I didn't mean to spoil that for you. Yeah, there's a second one.
I'm gonna go. No. Like, we're in spoilers. Dang.
Yeah, at the very end, like he opens up a chest and he sees like this black sword, and he starts reaching out to it, and you can hear like whispers, and like the wind moves in the room and everything. And from behind him, you hear the voice of Mahershala Ali playing his character Blade, saying, "You ready to take that step?"
It's funny that you mentioned Blade, is because I actually just revisited those films. Within these past few weeks, I revisit these films.
Really?
And let me tell you, man, like I'm like, bro, like Wesley Snipes was pretty awesome.
Yeah,
he knows martial arts, so he was able to bring that to the table with that character. And I don't know, he had this like really cool vibe. I don't know, Wesley Snipes. I mean that the shoes that he like left, man. I'm interested to see what this new incarnation of Blade is gonna be, but I mean there's some really big like shoes to fill.
Yeah, and those movies are gory, like
super gory.
I'm so curious how the MCU is gonna even try to tackle that.
I know, man. I know.
It just doesn't seem like it fits. Even within like the Daredevil universe, like that's another level of rated R.
Yeah, and that's like not even in the MCU.
Yeah. So
yeah, a little rabbit hole there since you're talking about Blade. The second one is my favorite.
Second Blade.
Yeah. And
I don't really remember anything past the first one, although I did see the second one. I never saw the third one.
Our buddy Del Toro directed that one, and you see the his magic of his like films in it. Like it's very like his vibe.
Nice.
So
yeah, he did Hellboy too, and that's another type.
Yeah,
of,
you
comic.
see that influence in that film. But yeah, that was a little rabbit hole. Yeah, it was nice revisiting those films. Yeah, gory, 100%.
Gory is the term. Yeah. Anyway, so Dane Whitman, he does get a little bit of. You do get a little hint of Black Knight, more so in the end credits scene as opposed to anything in the film. But that was really cool. What did you think of the Harry Styles Star Fox reveal?
You know, that was interesting to me. I was like, okay, that's a character that I've not dived too deep into.
Right. No, I know very little about him either, and you know, I've read comics my entire life, so they're really reaching into the depths of Marvel's lore and everything.
They really
pull out
are
new characters and everything.
I mean, dude, Guardians, come on, man.
Yeah.
Nobody knew about Guardians really until that film came out. And now they're like a household name.
True. I'll say this about the scene with Harry Styles and Pip, the troll. I hated it. That was the worst part of the movie for me. And I think a lot of critics, that was the last thing that they saw about the movie. That was the last scene that they left with thinking about, was that scene with Harry Styles and the very, very poor CGI character of Pip the Troll. Dude, it was like something you see out of a Shrek movie from the early 2000s. It didn't make any sense to be in an MCU movie. The fact that like the physics of his beer didn't even make sense. Like he would drop the entire thing, it would slosh a little bit, and then he'd pick it up and slosh some more, and it's like it's just an endless slosh pit in his cup. It didn't make any sense to me. It was just bad CGI. It actually kind of made me angry a little bit because we got this great film, and then the mid-credit scene just kind of took that tone totally in the opposite direction, and I wasn't feeling it. And I feel like if that wasn't in the movie, this would have a higher Rotten Tomato score. I'm 100% serious. Because
I know you are, but like just hearing that, it's hilarious. Like just like remove that scene, and it's gonna be like at least an 80.
Maybe not an 80. Maybe not even a positive Rotten Tomato score. But it wouldn't be such a rotten score. You know what I'm saying? The fact, I think that in and of itself is like probably the biggest criticism I have for this movie, is that it's trying to shoehorn in future films, and that's fine. The MCU does that. The MCU has always done that since the very first Iron Man. But this one did not work for me. And I think that if that wasn't in there, people would have left the theater talking about the film and not talking about that post-credit scene. That's just my opinion. I might be wrong. I might be totally wrong. But I didn't like it.
I mean, yeah, it was a bit of a sore thumb. But I want to watch the film again. Like, I want to give it another watch. And I definitely need to see that other end credit scene. Did he sound like Blade? Like, did he have like a good Blade voice? Because, come on, bro.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, no, here's the thing. I knew it was Blade.
Dude, like, I mean, bro, like, I mean, just that Wesley Snipes, man.
I don't think Mahershala is doing a Wesley Snipes impersonation in this.
Right. I know. Like, I mean, he's got
on screen at all.
Really, really, like, it's hard because, like, our impression of Blade, I mean, with the exception of that last film, is like generally really like pretty good because I mean, bro, like for the most part, everybody loves Wesley Snipes as Blade.
1998's Blade was really the first comic book movie of the modern superhero era, because after that, that's when we got X-Men in 2000 and Spider-Man 2 in 2002, and then it just was just an onslaught of superhero comic book movies. You know, there's probably been over 100 at this point. As far as his voice goes, it's very similar. Obviously, you know what Mahershala Ali's voice is if you've ever like seen him act before.
Right, Luke Cage.
So if you've seen Luke Cage, imagine his character Cottonmouth.
Yeah.
And then take away some of his like hood inflection and give it more of like a bass, and that's his Blade voice. If that makes any sense. Like it's less New York and more proper and like deep. So it sounds like Blade. It's pretty cool.
That's cool. Yeah, I look at him and I can see it. Like he's got the swagger for it.
Right, and he's sleek enough.
Yeah, he
role.
is sleek enough, and like I mean, he's had those characters. Like I mean, you know, Cottonmouth. You know, he'll have those like sunglasses on. You know.
Right.
So I mean, you know, he's got that vibe down. Yeah, I just like I'm interested to see how this works out. You know, because I mean Wesley Snipes, bro. he brought you know stuff with him, but I mean, there's like plenty of time to get himself accustomed to that character. So
for sure. Let's talk about the Celestials. Actually, the second time I went to see Eternals was in IMAX.
Ooh.
And I was really happy with that choice, because what IMAX does is, for those shots that are shot with an IMAX camera, the aspect ratio changes. You know, it's a larger image.
Yeah.
There's more on the top and the bottom. That you're just getting more picture at the end of the day. What they did with Eternals, especially when it came to the celestial scenes, where like it almost like changed into a different dimension where they're talking to the Celestials.
Yeah.
You saw, instead of just the aspect ratio like getting bigger to the next clip, there was almost like a honeycomb effect where it would like piece in more of the picture on the top and the bottom until it was like a different aspect ratio. I thought it was a really cool effect.
Oh,
and
nice.
I think just that alone was just like, whoa, that's cool. So
I might need to check that
like
out
that.
if I can.
Yeah, I would recommend it. It's eventually going to be on Disney Plus in both the normal theatrical release as well as the IMAX release. So actually, Disney Plus, I think a week or two ago, they released 13 of their movies in IMAX format. So you can see, you know, I think Avengers Infinity War, Avengers Endgame, and Shang-Chi are the only films of those 13 to be fully shot in IMAX. So
I need to
the
check
entirety, the entirety of the movie is a different aspect ratio. So if you go into the settings of like Disney Plus, you can see like different versions of those films. Click the IMAX one, and it's definitely worth it, especially for the Infinity War movies, you know, or Infinity War and Endgame.
Yeah, man. Thanks for letting me know that. Need to check that out.
Yeah, and the action in Shang-Chi is just so good.
Shang-Chi is just an awesome film.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Go check out our episode on Shang-Chi while you're at it after this.
Yes. So we've kind of talked a little. I mean, we've kind of been like sprinkling a little bit around. These characters, they travel. They essentially kind of catch up, and they find each other. Cersei eventually finds out their purpose, why they have to take out the deviants. Dakota talked a little bit about the creation of the deviants, but you don't find out about that until later on, really, that the deviants were created to take out the species of creatures that would prevent sentient species from flourishing. And so yeah, the deviants got out of hand, so the Eternals were created to take out the deviants and to really like, you know, take them out completely so that these populations can flourish. And so once the population has hit a certain peak, then these it was like these celestial seeds that were planted into these planets, and it's happened to other planets, but this one is on Earth. So once the population is hit a certain level, the celestial essentially like hatches out of like, or comes out of hibernation. It's been growing and growing as the population has grown more and more and more, and so the birth of a celestial essentially means the end of that civilization, because they destroy the planet in this birth process.
Yeah, it's actually an insane concept, and I actually really think it's a cool one. And I think if they do play it right, they can almost retroactively say that Thanos was right. If you take out half of all life on all these planets, then no more Celestials will be born, and none of these planets will be destroyed. So if you look at it that way, and if they retroactively like explain it that way, even though that's not what Thanos says in the movies, he's talking more about like provisions for these planets to live and thrive on. But if they retroactively make it so that Thanos was killing half the population of the universe to stop these planets from being destroyed by the Celestials, I think that could be a really cool turning point for the MCU, because that totally changes the game, and now it's a race to stop other Celestials, potentially, maybe Galactus, from being born.
They did mention about how the snap was a setback to that moment, from the Celestial coming to be, and so they also learn about their origin, and that they're essentially powerful like robots almost.
Yeah, they were created by the Celestial Arishem to literally seed life throughout the cosmos, whatever. And it had come time for Tiamat to be born, the one that was in the center of Earth. And we start seeing at the end of that the emergence of the Celestial, and it's really cool.
Yeah, it's
such
crazy.
a cool concept.
Like, it was just a hand coming out, and the hand was massive,
and a little bit of the head too.
Yeah.
But yeah, we start to see that, and they eventually reverse it. But it's interesting to note that both Ajax and Icarus already knew that their true purpose was to let humanity flourish until that point where it would all be destroyed.
Right.
And
they've done this like countless times. They just don't have
millions.
Right.
Yeah.
And they don't have a memory of it except for Thena, and that's why she goes into this. Thena goes into like, do you remember what the name of that was?
Yeah, well, it wasn't just Ajax also had memory of past worlds. She was the only one that they didn't erase the memories of. It was Thena, though, that her memories weren't wiped out properly, so she suffered from an illness called mad weary.
Right, and so like these memories were essentially like coming back.
Right, where of another planet that she was on many, many years ago, where she was instrumental in the destruction of a world. So imagine the PTSD you'd get from something like that. And I thought I genuinely thought that was one of the coolest things that they did with this movie, was explore post-traumatic stress and how that can totally affect anyone, especially someone as powerful as Athena, someone who the Romans and Greeks would idolize in their mythology and stuff. I think that that's such a cool concept.
Right, and Ajax was going to have Thena's memory wiped, but Gilgamesh essentially took it on to him to like say, "Hey, I'll keep an eye on her,"
Yeah, no, good on Gilgamesh. He was such an awesome character.
Yeah, no, for sure. But
talk about selflessness, because like that was he looked after her for 500 years.
Yeah, he did.
That's amazing.
He looked out for a long time. We've talked a little bit about the characters and some of their powers, but we haven't talked all of the characters' powers.
So let's go one by one. Let's start with Cersei. So she's a character who we mentioned, like, she's very in touch with humanity and she loves humans and everything, and she has the ability to almost like transmutate properties into other elements. You know, we see her like touch the ground and create water.
Right. It's almost like she has like the power of like alchemy.
Yeah, alchemy, basically. Yeah, she touches something and it turns into another thing. So like she touches a bust and it turns into a bunch of flower petals and stuff.
Yeah. No, I thought that was a pretty cool power.
Yeah, it's sick, and she uses it a couple times in the movie, really to cool effect. And there's a certain point where she realizes that now that she has the I forget what the item is that Ajax gave to Cersei upon her death, but the celestial orb thing that went into her chest, because she has that, she's now connected closer to the Unimind, which gives her more power, which is how she was able to change that deviant into a tree, which was another cool
that was
scene.
A really cool scene. They're like, oh wow, like how'd you do that?
So who else? We have Sprite. She's
Sprite.
one of the first characters that we are introduced to. She's an interesting one because she's almost like a Peter Pan type character who doesn't grow up, even though they talk about her as being the she's like simultaneously both Peter Pan and Tinkerbell, because she doesn't grow up, but she's also too young to really explore her emotions as and feelings as a character, because she can never. She's essentially a child at all points.
Right. And
I actually did feel bad for her because of that.
I did too. She wanted to. Well, she's around Cersei, and Cersei has like these connections, these romantic connections. That's something that Sprite really wants, and it's hard because she's a mature individual, so she's not going to be dating a child. She wants to date somebody that's more or she wants to be with somebody that obviously like an adult. She's an adult but trapped in a kid's body.
Yeah, so let's see, we also have Kingo. He has similar energy type projections that Icarus would have, but he shoots it out of his fingers kind of like guns, and he has the ability to charge them up over time, which he uses to decapitate one of the deviants in that fight in the Amazon rainforest.
Yeah.
So he's cool. He obviously you mentioned earlier that he was a Bollywood star for decades under the guise of like many generations of his family. I don't know how nobody like caught on to that besides Karun, but
I know. Yeah, his buddy called him out. Druig was really cool. He has that mind control power that he uses.
What a cool power!
And it's like not it's like a simultaneous. It's not he's mind controlling one character. He's mind controlling several beings, and he would use them to help fight and all that stuff.
Yeah, I really liked how they handled that, where especially like when the deviants attack in the rainforest, like you had all the characters raise their rifles at the same time and then shoot and reload and shoot and reload. I thought that was a cool rehearsed thing, obviously.
Yeah. There's Gilgamesh. He's just like super strong. He has this it's really cool when they kind of like tap into their powers. Like there's these light, some of the stuff like it's like a hologram.
It's almost like a gold holographic shimmer.
Yeah.
That, like all of their powers kind of have the same graphical component, or the like CGI component, in terms of like they all very clearly are from the same source, or their power, it comes from the same source.
Right.
Like Phastos, when he creates his tools or whatever, his weapons, it's all the same. It's almost like the same template of the types of power that they end up using.
Right. Yeah. Like when he, I thought that was really cool when he created that trap to keep Icarus down. Like right there.
Yeah, that was a cool. I thought that actually looked really cool, and it was a very practical thing. I feel like you could probably tell like he had been thinking about using something like this if ever Icarus ever attacked him particularly, because he just had it planned.
Yeah, yeah, like it was like ahead of time. Thena's
so yeah,
power
Phastos,
is like really. Oh no, yeah, it's like, no. Let's continue about continue.
Yeah, so let's jump back a little bit. Gilgamesh, he has a more physical brute strength, like almost like a boxing ability, where like it's actually kind of very similar to the power you would get with the 10 rings from Shang-Chi. You know, it was just like you punch and it just extends the power of your punches and stuff. So that was pretty cool. And he also used it to block and everything. I liked that. And, you know, going into Phastos, obviously he's the character who, we spoke about it, but he creates tools for mankind, and he creates new technologies for himself and for others to use. Yeah,
it's like item creation.
Right. What about Thena? You were talking about Thena.
Oh man, hers is really cool because it's like weapon based.
Yeah, it's like weapon craft or something.
Right, but it's like that same graphical thing that we're talking about. Like the weapons, it's not like an actual like weapon. It's like a weapon. I mean, it's a real weapon, but it's like a light weapon, and she changes it. Like she'll be in the middle of fighting, she'll be using a sword, then all of a sudden it changes to something else. It's really cool.
Yeah. I like that scene in the cave with Thena a lot.
Yes, I was just thinking about that.
She meets the Deviant. And she does it several times where, like, she has, like, a small shield. And then you could tell she starts getting a little more nervous. She changes it into a larger shield. And then it's, like, a big shield. And she, like, also increases the size of her weapon and everything. So I think that it's cool that she can change her weapon and, fighting utensils based on the necessities of the battle, and I think that that's pretty cool.
Yeah, she's done that. Like, you know, if she needs to get a little bit more power out of her weapon, it's exactly what she needs. Or if she needs speed, she'll do to that. I think that I feel like her character was like the most proficient when it came to fighting.
Oh yeah, totally. I did think that she offed the Deviant a little too easily, but it was like it was nice seeing her, because you thought the Deviant was going to like take her powers, which we didn't even touch upon yet in the story, but the Deviant has been taking powers from Phastos and Ajax, and now he was going to take it from Thena. And
no, he took all of a sudden Gilgamesh.
Oh yeah, not Phastos, Gilgamesh and Ajax. But now she is about to experience the same fate, and all of a sudden she like goes into her mad weary state and just chops the guy's head into like 4 pieces.
It's like beast mode.
But yeah, so Thena's pretty cool. Who haven't we talked about? We talked about Druid. Well, let's talk about Makari a little bit.
Yeah, she's like the Flash.
She's the speedster of the bunch.
Yeah.
And I really, really thought some of the stuff that they did with Makari was so cool. Like when she's speeding, and you're seeing the world just like fly by her and everything. I thought that's super cool. And like when she gets really angry and starts attacking someone, you just see like her, like it's like a blur of her just attacking like 10 times at once. It's so cool.
Right. Like her fight style reminded me a lot like the Flash. I mean, like, you know, she'd like,
yeah, totally.
She would come in from like different angles, hitting that person, like especially when she thought that Icarus had killed Druig.
Yeah, so far she's my favorite speedster of the MCU, even over like Quicksilver and everyone. So that's pretty cool. We have Ajax, who is the leader of the group. She's the one who knows about why they're there, the real reason they're there, and she has a healing power. Yeah. Which is like, you know, we first experienced the healing power from the Deviant that stole her powers. And so I thought that was an interesting dynamic a little bit. I think her powers are less exciting. Oh, we didn't even talk about Sprite's powers. She has the ability of illusion. she can make duplicates of individuals. I thought that scene in the beginning in London was pretty cool, where there was like a whole bunch of her and Cersei's walking around to confuse the deviant.
Right, and then she can like do like illusions with like items and stuff too. Remember what she did? She put that like outfit on Gilgamesh.
Yes, I thought that was fun.
Yeah.
That's another moment where I'm like, Gilgamesh really works with everyone. Like his chemistry just exudes whenever he's playing off of anyone.
What about his fermented spit drink?
Dude,
that was hilarious.
Yeah, but that's how people made like drinks back in the day. I get it. You gotta do what you gotta do. What else? We have Fastos. We didn't talk about Icarus. He's basically like the Superman type.
Right. He can fly. He has like super
vision.
strength, heat vision, and towards the end of the film, he essentially becomes the antagonist.
Right, because he still believes in the Celestials when everyone else is seemingly not quite doing so.
Right, second guessing them.
Even
because of like, we like this, they fell in love with the Earth and they don't want to see it go away. They don't want to see it to be destroyed.
It's interesting. Kingo is he wasn't there for the final battle, and I'm curious about that. But it kind of fits his character, where like he didn't want, like he put all his faith in Icarus. But now that Icarus was going against the other team, he didn't want anything to do with either of the teams.
Yeah.
So, like, he wasn't there at the final battle. I thought it was interesting. It was an interesting choice, but, I think the tide would have turned a little quicker if he were there. But, eventually they figure out a way to stop the Celestial from coming up. They use the Unimind to accentuate Cersei's power of changing the elemental structure of the thing. So now instead of celestial, there's just a big marble. I'm assuming it's marble. It's like he's made of, it's like marbled stone.
Yeah,
right?
That's what it looks like. Their first plan didn't pan out. They were trying to use Druig's power.
Right, which could have been cool, but I think that this is actually much cooler because now there's just a permanent landmark on Earth of just this hand coming out of the ocean.
Yeah, they'd be like, so this is the day that some random thing started to come out of the ground and now it's stone.
I'm curious when the next movie or show will be where they actually reference that. Because it's not something that like you can just like bat an eye about. It's literally an alien monster was turned to stone, and it's big enough to be like a large island.
I mean, the fingers thing, those are like mountains.
Yeah,
I mean, they're huge.
Like, you have all this new waterfront property or land that you can finally like make homes on in this on this giant hand.
Oh yeah,
it's gotta happen
like
at some
palm
point.
is like out too. Yeah, that's something that you can't just like not talk about. Yeah. Oh, and so Sprite kind of like teams up with them a little bit too. But
he teams up with Icarus for a little bit.
Right, because she has like these feelings for Icarus.
So anyway, after all is said and done, after they fight Icarus and get to the point where they change the Celestials, I think Icarus actually helps them out a little bit and is so overwhelmed with grief, and I think he's both ashamed that he went against the Eternals and tried to destroy all human life, but also defeated in his own personal life goals to an extent that he decided to off himself. Essentially, he literally flew too close to the sun.
Yeah, I know. I was like, oh wow, how very Icarus of him.
When that happened, I turned to Jen next to me and I was like, he flew too close to the sun, and she died laughing in theaters. But yeah, anyway, so that's pretty much it. And then at the very end, we get this shot of Cersei talking to Dane Whitman, and it's been a little bit now, and then all of a sudden the sky parts and you see Arishem's face pop up. He's just like, and he like pulls several of the remaining Eternals off the planet and basically says like the Earth will be judged. And dude, that was sick. That was a good way to end it.
Right. And so they essentially got like kidnapped. There was like a flash of moment there where they were showing like Celestials. I felt like there was a moment that I saw Galactus, because I saw one with like that same like headpiece that he has.
It's tough to say because they all kind of have that headpiece. It's just a little bit different. So I don't know. I haven't seen anyone make that connection yet. So I'm assuming it's probably not Galactus.
Galactus would be a good like villain for a major team up.
Yeah, I think they're saving that for Fantastic Four, like when they finally come into the picture.
They have to.
They have to. Yeah, no, it's primarily one of their villains. So
when they do that, we need some Silver Surfer action too. So,
dude, Silver Surfer's such a cool character. I can't wait for Silver Surfer. Anyway, I think we're gonna call it there.
Yeah, we're gonna call it there. Continued on. We're gonna record Dune next, and then we're gonna do Cowboy Bebop and a couple others all in one night.
No, actually, I'm going to bed. That's an early night for me. No, I'm just kidding. But no, we're not recording anymore tonight, unfortunately. This one was just a little too long. Our recording's coming in at 2 hours and change now.
It'll probably end up being like 1:40.
So thank you guys so much for listening to us here at Project Geekology for our 42nd episode. 42 episodes. We didn't make any joke about, hitchhikers and like that being the, the answer to all life and everything. But anyway, 42. Next week, Anthony and I will be jumping into Dune, so be sure not to miss out on our discussion. That's the new Dune, not the David Lynch Dune, which we discussed a couple weeks back.
Right.
Be sure to find all links to our show and socials in the show notes so you can keep up to date on all Project Geekology news and updates. If you enjoyed today's show, share it on social media, review it on your preferred podcast application, or talk to us directly online. Talk to you later.
Bye.